She was just a maid cleaning his mansion. When the sea laughed, "You'll never be more than a servant," she flashed a ring that made him kneel. Johannesburg at night, lights pouring down like a river of stars. Sandton, one of South Africa's wealthiest neighborhoods, is lit up tonight by a private dinner for the Africa Future Tech Summit. The glass-walled mansion shines brilliantly in the darkness, like a diamond set on the edge of the grassland. Champagne towers reflect the glow of crystal chandeliers as politicians, entrepreneurs, and celebrities mingle, chatting quietly about blockchain, artificial intelligence, and Africa's 5G rollout. This is the ERT of the New Africa, where dreams and capital collide. But in the most unnoticed corner of the banquet hall, a woman in a dark blue uniform and a plain headscarf is silently clearing ring plates. She moves quietly, almost soundlessly, like a shadow gliding across the polished carpet. Horror. Name is Leah. She's a cleaner in this mansion, earning 3,000 rand a month, living in a tin shack on the outskirts of Soweto, 10 kilometers away. That no one pays her any attention, except to occasionally wave her over and say, "Clean up that wine spill over there." The star of the evening is the owner of the house, Daniel Band, 34 years old, founder of Ujima Tech, South Africa's youngest black tech billionaire. Dressed in a finely tailored grey suit, a Swiss watch worth millions of rand glints coldly on his wrist under the spotlight. He stands center stage, raising his glass for a speech, his voice loud and full of confidence. "Our generation," he declares, "is no longer the shadow of colonialism, nor the heirs of poverty. We are the creators of Africa. Ujima, which means collective responsibility in Swahili, our technology will connect every village, allow every child to access the internet in their mother tongue." Applause erupts. Cameras focus on him, flashes popping one after another. But at this peak moment of glory, Daniel's gaze suddenly sweeps across the room and lands on Leah. She's bending over to pick up a knocked-over wineglass, her fingers slightly pale. He smirks, raising his voice with a hint of mockery. "Speaking of connecting everyone, I should mention our chief cleaning officer, Leah." The room falls silent for a second, then bursts into laughter. Some follow his gaze, looking at her with curiosity and disdain. Leah lifts her head, her face expressionless. She just nods slightly. Daniel walks closer, glass in hand, his tone casual, like he's telling a joke. "Leah, you scrub floors and wash glasses every day, and you do it so diligently. But you know what? Even if you polish this house till it shines like a mirror, you'll never be part of this circle." The laughter grows louder. "You'll always be just a servant, understand?" he says, smiling. As if stating an obvious fact. "It's not discrimination, it's reality. You have no degree, no resources, no connections. Your life is meant to serve people like us." Leah's hand pauses midair, her knuckles turning white as she grips the tray. She doesn't argue, doesn't shed a tear, doesn't even seem to breathe differently. She just looks at him calmly, her eyes like the deep, still waters of the grassland at midnight. Someone starts egging him on. "Well said, Daniel. That's just how it is." Right then, Leah slowly raises her left hand. Her movement is deliberate, almost ritualistic. Under the light, a ring on her finger suddenly glimmers with a strange light, not the sharp glitter of a diamond, but a soft yet undeniable glow. The ring is made of ivory and ancient bronze alloy, with a dark brown stone at the center engraved with an ancient Maasai symbol, an eye, representing protection and truth. The room falls completely silent. Daniel's smile freezes. He stares residential at the ring, his pupils contracting violently as if he's seen a ghost. His face turns from flushed to deathly pale, his lips trembling slightly. This can't be," he stammers, the really audible. Leah finally speaks, her voice as calm as if she's commenting on the weather. "You're right, Daniel. I'm not your servant." She pauses, her eyes locked on his terrified ones. "I'm the woman your father entrusted with this eye of the Maasai on his deathbed. And I'm also your half-sister." Silence. Then like thunder crashing through the banquet hall. Everyone is stunned. Reporters forget to take pictures, politicians forget to raise their glasses, even the background music seems to have stopped. Daniel stumbles back a step, bumping into a chair behind him. His mind goes blank. His father, the eye of the Maasai, sister, his father, Joseph Band, was a teacher during the anti-apartheid movement and died of cancer 3 years ago. He remembers his father, on his deathbed, gazing north and murmuring fragmented words. "Kenya, a girl, the ring, don't forget, home." He thought it was just delirium. But now, this ring, which he'd only seen in old photos of his father, is right here on the hand of this woman he orders around every day. You're lying. Daniel finally shouts, but his voice is shaky. That ring could be fake. Where did you steal it? Leah doesn't get angry. She gently holds the ring up to the light and turns it. Inside the band, tiny Swahili words are re-engraved, Moyo na Nyamba, the heart is home. It was Joseph Mban's personal motto, never publicly read. When your father was on the run, he hid for 6 months in a Maasai village in northern Kenya, Leah continues, her voice still steady. He fell in love with my mother, a schoolteacher. Before he left, he gave her this ring and said that if his son ever lost his way, this ring would guide him home. She pulls out a faded leather-bound diary from her pocket. Joseph's name is on the cover. This is his diary at page 47, June 12, 1987. He wrote, today, I've decided to leave. I can't put them in danger. But I leave the ring behind. If I ever have a son, may he see this and know that I once loved, and once acted out of cowardice. Daniel trembles uncontrollably. He recognizes that handwriting. It's his father's. He lunges forward, snatches the diary, and frantically flips through it. Page 47. There it is. The writing is shaky, the ink faded, but the words are clear as day, cutting straight into his heart. I am guilty. I left a daughter behind in the northern reaches of Africa. If she lives, her name should be Leah. If my son Daniel grows up, may he not be like me, abandoning family for ideals. Tears well up in his eyes. Not from sadness, but from shame. He remembers what he said just moments ago, you'll always be just a servant. And this person is his father's long-lost daughter. His own sister. He looks up at Leah. She still stands tall, without a trace of triumph, only deep weariness and dignity. Then, Daniel's knees buckle. Thud. He kneels right there, in front of everyone. It's not an act, not for show. It's a physical reaction, his pride shattered, his soul shaken. He kneels on the polished floor of his own mansion, looking up at the woman he called a servant. Sister, he chokes out, his voice breaking. I didn't know. I was wrong. I'm so. Leah doesn't reach out to help him up. She simply closes the diary and slips the ring back into her sleeve. Get up, Daniel, she says. Kneeling isn't the way to make things right. Tomorrow, we'll talk about our father, about the past, and about the respect you owe this family. She turns, picks up her cleaning basket, and walks quietly toward the back door, just as she came. Leaving behind a room full of stunned people and a man kneeling at the peak of power who suddenly has nothing. The night breeze blows in through the floor-to-ceiling windows, lifting a corner of the curtain like a long, deep sigh. The African night is never just about glamour. It's deep, complex, hiding countless forgotten stories. And tonight, a cleaner's ring uncovered a buried bloodline and sounded a warning for an era in Africa. True identity isn't about what you have, it's about what you remember. Northern Kenya, east of Lake Turkana. A sun-bleached wasteland where the wind whips up dust, lashing the earth like countless tiny whips. There are no trees here, only thorny bushes and dried-up riverbeds. In the distance, a herd of skinny cattle sea urchins for the last drops of water. The sky is a dusty yellow, as if even the clouds can't be bothered to stay. On this very land, a 12-year-old girl kneels in front of a mud hut, wiping the ground with a ragged cloth. Her name is Leah. She wears a faded blue dress and no shoes. Her hair is braided tightly, woven with a few strands of faded red thread, the only decoration her mother left her. Her mother was the only literate woman in the village. She studied at a school run by German missionaries when she was young and later became the village teacher. She taught the children Swahili, math, and even myths from across Africa. She always said, knowledge is a woman's best dowry. But in this traditional Maasai village, that kind of thinking was dangerous. The elders believed that educated women would disrupt the bloodline and bring drought. When Leah was 5, the village went 3 years without rain. Livestock died in large numbers. Rumors began to spread, the Red Rain Girl has brought a curse. Because on the day Leah was born, the sky rained a rusty red color for an entire night. The village witch. Doctor called it the blood of the EARTH, a sign that a girl would break tradition and bring chaos. Her mother didn't believe any of it. She held Leah and said, "They're not afraid of you, they're afraid of change." But 3 years later, her mother caught a lung disease and passed away on a cold night. Before she died, she placed an ivory and bronze ring on Leah's finger. "This was left by your father. If you ever leave this place, remember, your worth isn't in the land. It's in your heart." Leo's father. Her mother never said much, only that he was a man from the south who fought for ideals, and that he was never heard from again. After her mother died, the village elders held a meeting. They said, "Leah has no one left. By tradition, she should marry elder Uru Kalanga as his 7th wife." Uru Kalanga was in his 60s, toothless, and needed a walking stick. He already had 6 wives and over a dozen children. Marrying Leah wasn't about love, it was about containing the curse of the red rain. The wedding was set for 3 days later. That night, Leah sat on a rock outside her hut all night without moving. She didn't cry or make a sound. She just read at the ring, remembering her mother's words, "Knowledge is your dowry." She knew that if she married him, she would be trapped in this wasteland forever, nothing more than a tool for labor and childbearing. She'd end up like the other wives, hauling water, milking cows, having babies, until the wind and sand wore her face flat and age bent her back. She didn't want that life. Erly the next morning, she sneaked into the village school and took a few books her mother had hidden in a secret compartment, a Swahili dictionary, a short book on African history, and a faded map of South Africa. She stuffed them into a small cloth bag, along with a piece of dry bread and a gourd of water she took from the kitchen. At dusk, while the Guardias weren't paying attention, she climbed over the mud wall and ran barefoot into the wilderness. The wind and sand stung her face like knives. She didn't know which way to go, only that she had to head south. Her mother once said the South had cities, schools, and a different way to live. She walked for 3 days. Her feet were covered in blisters, her lips cracked and bleeding. She met a group of migrating herders who gave her some milk and a blanket. On the 4th day, she finally reached Turkana town, a dusty border settlement made of tin shacks. She found work at a small restaurant called the Savory of the Grassland, washing dishes and sweeping floors in exchange for meals and a mat to sleep on in the kitchen. The owner was a rough Luo man who often yelled at her, calling her a clumsy village girl. But she didn't see a She was grateful for the job, especially because the owner's wife was one of the few people who smiled at her. Then, a month later, a doctor from South Africa, Naomi Mbo, came to town to study women's health. While eating at the restaurant, she noticed Leah secretly writing Swahili words in water stains on the tables. She called Leah over. "You can write?" Leah nodded softly. "My mother taught me." Naomi was surprised. She listened to Leah's story, stayed quiet for a moment, and then said, "Come with me. I'll send you to a girls' vocational school in Nairobi." Leah was stunned. "But I have no money. No ID." "I know," Naomi sighed. "How many girls in Africa are stuck because of a piece of paper? But I'll find a way." It turned out Naomi wasn't just a doctor, she also ran an NGO called the Red Rain Project, which helped marginalized women access education and healthcare. She'd seen too many girls like Leah, smart, strong, but held back by tradition, poverty, and bureaucracy. She helped Leah get fake orphan papers and arranged for her to go to a vocational school in Nairobi. 3 months later, Leah was on a bus to the capital. Nairobi felt like another planet to Leah. Skyscrapers, cars, neon lights, and young people in suits carrying phones. She felt like a wild thing that had crawled out from under a rock. The school took her in, but she had to work for her keep, cleaning classrooms and organizing the library to cover her tuition. She studied basic accounting, nursing, and introductory computer skills. Leah soaked up knowledge like a sponge. She taught herself English at night and practiced typing during the day. She even saved up meal money to buy a second-hand book on programming. She didn't understand most of it, but she remembered one word, code, the spell of the new age. 2 years later, she graduated with top marks and certificates in nursing and basic IT. She sent out dozens of job applications, hospitals, clinics, tech companies. The replies were All the same, sorry, without formal ID, we can't hire you. She went to the government office to apply for an ID. The clerk didn't even look up. Do you have a birth certificate? A letter from your village chief? Land records? Leah had none of those. In Kenya, over a third of rural children have no official birth records. She was one of the invisible ones. She finally understood, in this seemingly modern Africa, your existence often depends on a piece of paper. Without it, no matter how much you Leah RN, you're still a ghost, an illegal worker. Out of options, a teacher from the vocational school put her in touch with a domestic worker agency in Johannesburg. They told her, come to South Africa. There are more opportunities here. If you're willing to work, you can survive. So she got a tourist visa, took her mother's ring and her last 500 shillings, and bought a ride a flight to Johannesburg. When she first arrived in South Africa, she lived in a tin shack on the edge of Soweto, Gauteng, with 5 other women. Every morning at 5 a.m., she took a crowded minibus across the city to Sandton, the wealthy neighborhood, to work as a cleaner. Her first job was cleaning for a white lawyer. The woman never looked her in the eye and spoke to her like she was talking to a machine. Mop the floor again. Take down the curtains to wash. Don't touch the books. Later, she was sent to Daniel Mband's mansion. The conditions were better here. She had a uniform, a steady salary, and half a day off each week. But she was still the cleaner, a shadow in the background. She Leah rened to stay quiet. To pretend not to hear when her employers argued. To keep her head down and wipe wine stains from the CA pet while the rich talked about Africa rising. She never complained. Because she knew that Kampa read to the wasteland of Turkana or Uru Kalanga's mud hut, this was already lucky. But she never took off that ring. She kept it under her sleeve, against her skin, like a beating memory. Often at night, she sat by the small window of her tin shack, looking at the distant lights of Johannesburg, remembering her mother's words, your worth isn't in the land. It's in your heart. She didn't know who her father was, or whether Daniel Mband's father Joseph was real. She only knew one thing, she wasn't a servant, and she wasn't a curse. She was Leah, a girl from the wilderness, with a ring and a heart that refused to kneel. And the hairs of fate were quietly turning. She didn't know it yet, but that ring wasn't just her mother's keepsake. It was a key about to open a long-locked door. Behind it lay blood, truth, and the possibility of a new Africa. The dawn in Johannesburg always has this rusty smell. Soweto, this township famous for fighting against apartheid, shows its true, complicated self in the morning. Light, rows of neat government houses stand in front of sprawling tin shacks that look like scars on the land. Kids run barefoot through the mud, women line up for water, and men crowd on street corners, hoping for a day's work. Back in 1998, a 7-year-old boy was squatting by a garbage dump, poking through it with a stick looking for plastic bottles he could sell. His name was Daniel Mband. His dad was a gold miner who died in a tunnel collapse. His mom scraped by, raising him and his 2 sisters by washing clothes and collecting scrap. That day, the mine manager only brought a small bag of rice and 500 rand, saying, your father broke the safety rules. The company isn't liable. Daniel's mom knelt and begged, but all she got was, keep causing trouble and I'll call the police. Daniel never forgot the sound of his mother crying that night. It was like a knife scraping over a tin roof. Right then, he swore to himself, no one will ever treat me like this again. So, he studied obsessively. His school was 5 kilometers away. He walked 2 hours each day, his backpack holding not just textbooks, but also a half-eaten cornmeal cake, his only meal for the day. His teacher noticed he kept dozing off in class and found out he was up at 4 a.m. every morning helping his mom sort through trash. You're a smart boy, his teacher told him. Don't waste it. Get a scholarship. Get to Cape Town. Daniel held on to those words. He attacked his studies like a red wolf going after food. Math, physics, English, he aced them all. At 15, he won the Africa's Tomorrow Leaders scholarship and got into a top private high school in Cape Town. It was his first time in a real library, his first time touching a computer, his first time hearing classmates talk about Silicon Valley and coding. He soaked it all up like a dry sponge. In his free time, he taught himself HTML and Python, trading work at an internet cafe for computer time. He found that in the world of code, there was no skin color, no rich or poor, only logic and creation. Here, he wasn't just a miner's son, he was a future programmer. In 2008, his excellent grades got him into the computer science program at the University of Cape Town. On his first day, he wore his only suit bought secondhand, with a crooked tie and cracked dress shoes. A professor asked him, "Where are you from?" He straightened his back and said, "Soweto." The room went quiet. Someone snickered, others frowned. Throughout university, he worked to support himself. Classes during the day, night shifts at a convenience store. He lived in the cheapest dorm and ate the cheapest bean porridge, but his grades were always among the best. When he graduated, a Zulu language translation app he developed won an Innovation Awa Road. Local media did a story on him, calling him the slum kid who coded his way out. Several tech companies offered him well-paid jobs, but he turned them down. He remembered his father's last words, "Daniel, it's not that we black people rent smart. It's that we rely get a chance to be." He wrote, "Use your voice for those who are silent." In 2012, he sta root Ujima Tech. Ujima means collective responsibility in Swahili. At first, it was just 3 people in a rented basement. Their goal was to develop a voice assistant that could understand 20 African local languages, so an old grandmother who didn't speak English could still use her phone to check the weather, call a doctor, or listen to the news. That first year, they couldn't get any investors. Venture capitalists said, "The African market is too small, too many languages. It's not realistic." Daniel didn't give up. He and his team traveled to rural villages, recording the voices of elders, herders, and vendors, manually labeling data. They built models using open-source tools, often staying up all night to fix crashed servers. Their big break came in 2014. A devastating flood hit, and rescue teams used Ujima's voice system to broadcast evacuation instructions in Zulu to villagers, saving hundreds. A video of this went viral, moving people everywhere. An international development fund reached out and invested $5 million. Ujima grew fast. They launched the Ujima Voice app, supporting Xhosa, Swahili, Hausa, and other languages. User numbers soared read past 10 million. By 2020, they were pioneering with governments across Africa, integrating into education and healthcare systems. In 2023, the company was valued at over $1 billion. Daniel made the cover of Forbes Africa, hailed as Africa's Zuckerberg. His mansion was built on the highest point in Sandton, a symbol of his African dream, from the slums to the pinnacle of success. He funded coding classes for kids in Soweto, donated community libraries, and always emphasized in his speeches, technology must be inclusive. Otherwise, it's just a new form of colonialism. But in private, Daniel had changed. He grew impatient with anything he saw as inefficient or backway road. If a housekeeper was 5 minutes late, he'd send a warning email. If an assistant misspoke a single figure, he'd berate them in front of others. He believed success came from absolute rationality and an elite mindset, and that people from the bottom were often lazy, ignorant, and not to be trusted. He hired Leah because the agency said she was quiet and doesn't make trouble. He never Leah reneged her name, referring to her only as the cleaning lady. He thought she seemed shifty-eyed and slow, a typical country person. Once, Leah accidentally knocked over a glass of water on the coffee table, wetting some of his papers. He shot up from his chair. "Can't you be more careful? Do you have any idea what these documents are worth?" Leah apologized quietly and wiped up the mess. He didn't see her hands trembling slightly as she cleaned. He also didn't know that Leah had learned basic programming at vocational school. She recognized the code format on his papers and knew it was just a routine presentation, but he didn't see a re. In his eyes, a servant was a servant. They shouldn't understand such things. Right before the company's IPO, the pressure was immense. A competitor, Nile AI, spread rumors that Ujima was collecting and selling user voice data. The media began questioning Daniel's ethics. He called an emergency meeting. His executives were at a loss. Someone suggested, pay to have the posts taken down, or sue for defamation. Daniel rubbed his temples, stressed. Just then, Leah came in with coffee. setting it quietly on the conference table. As she turned to leave, she said softly, "Sir, last night I saw in the system logs, there was an unusual IP address accessing the database at 3 a.m. Its location was in Cairo." Daniel was taken aback. "You understand system logs?" Leah kept her eyes down. "I learned a little basic IT in vocational school." He smirked coldly. "That was 3 years ago. The systems now are more complex. Don't make wild guesses." But after the meeting, he checked the logs anyway. That IP was indeed there, and it had made multiple attempts to breach permissions. Following the trail, he discovered it was a hacker hired by his competitor. He immediately contacted the police, saving the company's reputation. But he never thanked Leah, never even mentioned her name. At the press conference, he said, "Our security team identified the breach in time." Watching him on TV, Leah just shook her head gently. She understood. In Daniel's world, credit belonged to the elites. She would always be part of the background, a shadow. Then came that night at the dinner party, when he humiliated her in front of everyone. "You'll always be just a servant." In that moment, looking at him, she suddenly saw the fear in his eyes, not contempt for her, but a fear of losing control. He was terrified of being dragged back down, of returning to the mud of Soweto. She understood him because she, too, had escaped from the wilderness, but she could not accept that he would right his position by trampling on the dignity of others. So, she showed him the ring. Not for revenge, but to wake him up. She wanted him to understand, true rising up isn't about running from your past, it's about embracing it. It's not about climbing over others, it's about lifting them up with you. And when Daniel fell to his knees, it wasn't because of the ring. It was because he finally saw, in the eyes of the woman he called a servant, something he himself had lost long ago, a quiet dignity. The rainy season in Johannesburg comes without warning. After a heavy downpour, Daniel's mansion looked freshly washed, its glass walls reflecting the pale gray sky. As usual, Leah arrived at the 3-story villa at 6 in the morning to start her cleaning. She began in the kitchen, wiping the stovetop, cleaning out the fridge. Then the living room, the dining room, and finally the study. That was the room that took the longest. Daniel loved books. The study was lined with shelves from floor to ceiling, filled with hardcovers on tech, philosophy, and African history. That day, she noticed an old leather suitcase tucked away in a corner, covered in a thick layer of dust. A tag on it read, "Joseph Maid, Private. Do not touch." Joseph Maid, Daniel's father, who had died of cancer 3 years ago. Leah had seen him in a photo in Daniel's office, a middle-aged black man with glasses, gentle eyes, and a quiet, thoughtful smile. She remembered what her mother said on her deathbed, "Your father's name was Joseph. He was a teacher. He fought for freedom." She'd never confirmed it, but something inside her whispered, "This man might be my father." She opened the suitcase ruefully. Inside were some old clothes, a medal, and a few faded photo albums. As she shifted them, a dark brown leather journal slipped out from between the layers. She picked it up. On the cover, in neat handwriting, it said, "Joseph Maid, Personal Journal." She opened to the first page. The date read, January 1, 1985. Her heart began to beat faster. She didn't read it right away. She finished cleaning, quietly put the journal back, and waited until the afternoon when Daniel left for a meeting and the house was empty. Then she locked the study door, sat by the window, and began to read. March 15, 1987. The police raids are getting worse. Comrades are being arrested, lists are leaking. I have to leave Johannesburg. The organization is sending me through Botswana to Kenya, to lay low for a while. I don't know when I'll be back. I just pray my family stays safe. Leo's finger paused on that line. 1987, the same year her mother was teaching at the village school. June 3, 1987 made it to northern Kenya, hiding in a Maasai village. The people were worried at first, but when they saw I meant no harm, they let me stay in the school. The head teacher is a young woman named Amina. She's educated, speaks Swahili and English. She's the only teacher here. She teaches the children to sing and count. Her eyes are bright, like stars over the grassland. Amina, Leah's mother. Tars welled up in her eyes. June 18, 1987. Amina made me corn porridge tonight. We talked for a long time. She said, "You fight for freedom, we fight to survive. But we both want our children to grow up with dignity." I told her about my mission. She wasn't afraid. Instead, she said, "Ideals shouldn't make people lonely." Leah gently traced the words. Her mother had never spoken of this, but she could picture it, two idealists in a mud hut in the middle of nowhere, sharing a warm meal and dreaming of the future. August 12, 1987. I've fallen in love with her. Not some fleeting feeling, it's a meeting of souls. She's strong, wise, and kind. We made promises under the moon. But I know I can't stay. The organization called The Situation back home is tense. I have to return and continue the fight. Leaving her is the greatest sin of my life. Leah's breath caught. She had never imagined her mother had a love like this. September 1, 1987. I've decided to go. Amina is pregnant. She cried but didn't try to stop me. She said, "Go. Your fight is in the south. I'll tell our child their father was a hero." I left her the family ring, the Eye of the Masai. It was my grandmother's, a symbol of protection and truth. I told her, if my son Daniel ever loses his way, this ring will guide him home. Leah looked up, her fingers instinctively touching the ring hidden under her sleeve. Now she understood. Joseph was her father. Daniel was her half-brother, and this ring wasn't just a token, it was a responsibility. Her father had entrusted it to her mother so that one day, Daniel would remember where he came from. September 5, 1987. I'm gone. I looked back once. Amina was standing at the edge of the village, her hand resting on her stomach, silent like a statue. I swore I'd come back for them when the revolution succeeded. But fate played a cruel joke. I was arrested as soon as I returned and spent 3 years in prison. By the time I got out, I was married with a child. I couldn't explain. I buried my guilt deep. Amina and the child remain my lifelong regret. April 10, 1990. Received an anonymous letter today. It said Amina gave birth to a girl named Leah. There was a photo. The girl has my eyes. I broke down crying. I have a daughter, but I can't claim her. My presence would only ruin their lives. All I can do is pray they stay safe. Tars finally fell from Leah's eyes, landing on the yellowed pages. Leah. He had named her. November 3, before his death, "The cancer is in my bones. My time is short." Daniel visited today and asked if I had any regrets. I looked toward the north and said, "Kenya, a girl, the ring, don't forget, home." He thought I was delirious. But I know, if he ever meets Leah, that ring will tell him everything. I hope he isn't like me, abandoning family for ideals. I hope they can support each other and heal what I broke. The journal ended there. Leah closed it and sat still for a long time. Outside, the rain root again, tapping against the window like countless gentle questions. Finally, she understood everything. Her birth wasn't a curse, it was love. Right on. Her mother's early death wasn't just bad luck, it was also loneliness and longing. And she had ended up in the same city as her brother, yet met him as a servant. She didn't hate Joseph. She understood his impossible choice, a man fighting for his people's freedom, unable to protect his own family. She didn't hate Daniel either. His arrogance came from not knowing, and from the warmth his father never passed down, but she couldn't stay silent any longer. This ring wasn't just a keepsake, it was an unfinished mission. To reconnect a divided family. To bring forgotten love back into the light. She gently returned the journal to the suitcase and put everything back in place. She knew now wasn't the time to reveal the truth. Daniel was dealing with company troubles. If she told him now, he might see her as someone trying to blackmail him. She would wait for the right moment. But she was already moving. She took photos of the key pages, avoiding private parts, and saved them to an encrypted cloud drive. She contacted a lawyer friend in Nairobi and asked her to help see RCH land records in Joseph Mban's name in Kenya. The journal mentioned he'd bought a small plot to build a teacher's support center, but he was arrested before he could start. She also quietly began studying South African family law, learning about inheritance rights for children born out of wedlock. She wasn't just the cleaning lady anymore. She was Leah, Joseph's daughter, Daniel's sister, the inheritor of her mother's ideals. She knew a storm would come when the truth was revealed. But she wasn't afraid anymore. Because this time, she wasn't running away. She was coming home. The rain stopped. A beam of golden sunset broke through the clouds, shining into the study, on the old suitcase, and on Leah's calm face. Softly, as if speaking to her mother and father. She said, "I found my home. This time, I won't let it be lost again." Winter in Johannesburg arrives quietly. The early morning air rise, the smell of rust and dust, and thin plumes of smoke rise from the tin shacks on the edge of Soweto. Leah wakes up right at 5 a.m., outside, it's still the RK. She gets up refully, trying not to wake the two other women she shares residential the room with, Mary and Sa. They're also domestic workers who came here fleeing hardship, from Zimbabwe and Mozambique. She puts on her RK blue uniform, slips her mother's ring onto her left hand, and covers it completely with her sleeve. This eye of the Maasai isn't just a memory anymore, it's a heavy secret and a responsibility she rise inside. She takes the crowded minibus across the city. By the time she reaches Daniel's mansion, the sky is just beginning to lighten. As usual, she enters through the back door and starts her cleaning. But she isn't just cleaning anymore. After reading Joseph's diary, she's route watching this house and Daniel with different eyes. She notices that the code for the safe in his study is Ujima-01, his company's name +1. Dangerously simple. She notices he often leaves his work phone unlocked on his bedside table. She sees that when he's stressed, he drinks alone in the wine cellar, sometimes late into the night. She knows these aren't just the habits of a CE. They're the struggles of a lonely soul. He has billions, but no one he trusts with his heart. He stands at the top of Africa's tech world but has forgotten where he came from. Leah decides to protect him, not as a sister, but as a silent guardian. First act of protection, the keys. It was a Friday night. Daniel came home drunk after a business event. Leah had already clocked out but came back because she'd forgotten her phone. As she walked in, she heard noise from the garage. Daniel was swaying toward his black Mercedes, car keys dangling in his hand. "Sir," she said softly, "you've had too much. You shouldn't drive." Daniel squinted, waving her off impatiently. "Mind your own business." Leah didn't argue. She went back to her supply closet, took out a spa key, the one she was allowed to have for emergencies, and walked quietly to the Mercedes. She opened the door, swapped the real key with a dummy one she'd prep a ready liar, and slipped away. 10 minutes later, Daniel tried to start the car. Nothing happened. He slammed the steering wheel in anger, but eventually called a ride. The next day, he checked the security footage and saw what Leah did. He called her into his study, his voice sharp. "Who said you could touch my car?" Leah stayed calm. "Sir, you were drunk. If you'd crashed, it wouldn't just be you, others could have been hurt. I couldn't let you take that risk." Daniel froze. He was about to fire her, but her words hit him hard. He remembered what his father used to say, real leadership isn't about serving yourself, it's about being responsible for others. In the end, all he said was, "Next time, tell me first." Second act of protection, the data Ujima Tech was in its final audit before going public. Suddenly, the company servers acted up, user voice data was being downloaded in bulk from an IP address in Cairo. Daniel was furious, suspecting an inside leak. He called an emergency meeting and ordered a full review of every employee's access. While cleaning the conference room, Leah overheard the discussion. She remembered, a few days earlier, while cleaning Daniel's study, she'd seen a strange login prompt flash on his computer, remote access requested. Approve? He was on the phone and just clicked yes without looking. She hesitated, then knocked on his door. "Sir," she said quietly, "I might know how the data was leaked." Daniel smirked. "You? A cleaner?" "Yes," she didn't back down. "The other day, you were on a call, and someone tried to log into your account remotely. You clicked approve without checking where it came from." Daniel paused. He did remember that call, it was from his mom, about his sister's school fees. He had his tech team check the logs. Sure enough, that IP had tried repeatedly to break in around 3 a.m. and finally got in when Daniel realistically approved the login. They traced the hacker to a rival company, Nile AI. Ujima alerted the police and avoided a bigger crisis. After Uwe Road, Daniel didn't praise Leah publicly. At the company meeting, he said, the security team acted quickly. But privately, he told his assistant, give Leah a 500 rand raise. Leah didn't accept it. She only said, my job is to keep this house safe. Third act of protection, dignity. As the IPONEA read, Daniel's stress peaked. He grew irritable and suspicious. Once, he humiliated a female executive in front of everyone over a PowerPoint color scheme, saying her taste was like a villager's. That night, while cleaning his office, Leah found a torn-up note in the trash. It said, am I becoming the person I used to hate? She quietly pieced it together and placed it in his desk drawer without a word. The next day, Daniel saw the note. He read at it for a long time. He thought about his childhood in Soweto, the miners yelled at by white bosses, his mother being spit on while collecting scrap. He had sworn never to become the oppressor. But now, he was using his power to step on others. He gathered his team and publicly apologized to that executive, I was wrong. Success shouldn't make me lose my humanity. The mood in the company slowly changed. People root calling him Daniel, not C. Sir. Fourth act of protection, the edge of truth. Leah knew she couldn't wait any longer. Rumors root among the staff. A jealous coworker posted in a WhatsApp group, Leah's always in the study, must be sleeping with the boss to move up. It spread fast. Someone screenshot it and read it on social media with the caption, cleaner seduces tech billionaire, the truth exposed. Leah didn't explain. She knew that with class and gender bias working against her, silence was her best defense. But she also knew if she stayed silent, the truth would turn into scandal. She reached out to the person Daniel trusted most, Mara Nkosi, a 70-year-old former anti-apartheid lawyer and an independent director at Ujima. She met Mara at the Johannesburg Botanical Garden. Without speaking, she handed her copies of the diary pages, a photo of the ring, and an old picture of her mother, Amina. Mara's hands shook slightly as she read. She looked up at Leah. What do you want? Money? Sharez? Leah shook her head. I just want him to remember his father. To remember his roots. I don't want him to live with regret, like Joseph did. Mara was silent for a long time. Finally, she said, I'll talk to him. But be ready, the truth might hurt more than silence. Leah nodded. But pain is better than numbness. Returning at night that evening, Leah returned to the tin shack. Mary and Sarah were waiting for her. Where have you been? Mary asked. Everyone online is talking about you and the boss. Leah sat down, gently rolled up her sleeve, and showed them the ring. What they're saying isn't true, she said calmly. I am Daniel Mban's sister. His father was my father too. They were too stunned to speak. I don't want his money or his status, Leah said, gazing out at the night sky. I just want him to know a hero who rose out of the slums shouldn't forget he was once the boy collecting bottles. She put the ring on and said softly, tomorrow, the storm will come. But I'm not afraid anymore. Winter in Johannesburg arrives quietly. The early morning air rise the smell of rust and dust, and thin plumes of smoke rise from the tin shacks on the edge of Soweto. Leah wakes up right at 5 a.m., outside, it's still the RK. She gets up refully, trying not to wake the two other women she residential the room with Mary and Sarah. They're also domestic workers who came here fleeing hardship, from Zimbabwe and Mozambique. She puts on her RK blue uniform, slips her mother's ring onto her left hand, and covers it completely with her sleeve. This eye of the Maasai isn't just a memory anymore, it's a heavy secret and a responsibility she rise inside. She takes the crowded minibus across the city. By the time she reaches Daniel's mansion, the sky is just beginning to lighten. As usual, she enters through the back door and starts her cleaning. But she isn't just cleaning anymore. After reading Joseph's diary, she's root watching this house and Daniel with different eyes. She notices that the code for the safe in his study is Ujima 01, his company's name +1. Dangerously simple. She notices he often leaves his work phone unlocked on his bedside table. She sees that when he's stressed, he drinks alone in the wine cellar, sometimes late into the night. She knows these aren't just the habits of a CE. They're the struggles of a lonely soul. He has billions, but no one he trusts with his CRT. He stands at the top of Africa's tech world but has forgotten where he came from. Leah decides to protect him, not as a sister, but as a silent guardian. First act of protection, the keys. It was a Friday night. Daniel came home drunk after a business event. Leah had already clocked out but came back because she'd forgotten her phone. As she walked in, she heard noise from the garage. Daniel was swaying toward his black Mercedes car. Keys dangling in his hand. Sir, she said softly, you've had too much. You shouldn't drive. Daniel squinted, waving her off impatiently. Mind your own business. Leah didn't argue. She went back to her supply closet, took out a spa key, the one she was allowed to have for emergencies, and walked quietly to the Mercedes. She opened the door, swapped the real key with a dummy one she'd prep a ready liar, and slipped away. 10 minutes later, Daniel tried to start the car. Nothing happened. He slammed the steering wheel in anger, but eventually called a ride. The next day, he checked the security footage and saw what Leah did. He called her into his study, his voice sharp. Who said you could touch my car? Leah stayed calm. Sir, you were drunk. If you'd crashed, it wouldn't just be you, others could have been hurt. I couldn't let you take that risk. Daniel froze. He was about to fire her, but her words hit him hard. He remembered what his father used to say, real leadership isn't about serving yourself, it's about being responsible for others. In the end, all he said was, next time, tell me first. Second act of protection, the data Ujima Tech was in its final audit before going public. Suddenly, the company servers acted up. User voice data was being downloaded in bulk from an IP address in Cairo. Daniel was furious, suspecting an inside leak. He called an emergency meeting and ordered a full review of every employee's access. While cleaning the conference room, Leah overheard the discussion. She remembered, a few days earlier, while cleaning Daniel's study, she'd seen a strange login prompt flash on his computer, remote access requested. Approve? He was on the phone and just clicked yes without looking. She hesitated, then knocked on his door. Sir, she said quietly, I might know how the data was leaked. Daniel smirked. You? A cleaner? Yes. She didn't back down. The other day, you were on a call, and someone tried to log into your account remotely. You clicked approve without checking where it came from. Daniel paused. He did remember that call. It was from his mom, about his sister's school fees. He had his tech team check the logs. Sure enough, that IP had tried repeatedly to break in around 3 a.m. and finally got in when Daniel realistically approved the login. They traced the hacker to a rival company, Nile AI. Ujima alerted the police and avoided a bigger crisis. After Uwe Road, Daniel didn't praise Leah publicly. At the company meeting, he said, the security team acted quickly. But privately, he told his assistant, give Leah a 500 rand raise. Leah didn't accept it. She only said, my job is to keep this house safe. Third act of protection, dignity. As the IPONEA read, Daniel's stress peaked. He grew irritable and suspicious. Once, he humiliated a female executive. In front of everyone over a PowerPoint color scheme, saying her taste was like a villager's. That night, while cleaning his office, Leah found a torn-up note in the trash. It said, am I becoming the person I used to hate? She quietly pieced it together and placed it in his desk drawer without a word. The next day, Daniel saw the note. He read at it for a long time, but he thought about his childhood in Soweto, the miners yelled at by white bosses, his mother being spit on while collecting scrap. He had sworn never to become the oppressor. But now, he was using his power to step on others. He gathered his team and publicly apologized to that executive, I was wrong. Success shouldn't make me lose my humanity. The mood in the company slowly changed. People root calling him Daniel, not sir. Fourth act of protection, the edge of truth. Leah knew she couldn't wait any longer. Rumors root among the staff. A jealous co-worker posted in a WhatsApp group, Leah's always in the study, must be sleeping with the boss to move up. It spread fast. Someone screenshot it and read it on social media with the caption, Cleaner seduces tech billionaire, the truth exposed. Leah didn't explain. She knew that with class and gender bias working against her, silence was her best defense, but she also knew if she stayed silent, the truth would turn into scandal. She reached out to the person Daniel trusted most, Mara Nkosi, a 70-year-old former anti-apartheid lawyer and an independent director at Ujima. She met Mara at the Johannesburg Botanical Garden. Without speaking, she handed her copies of the diary pages, a photo of the ring, and an old picture of her mother, Amina. Mara's hand shook slightly as she read. She looked up at Leah. What do you want? Money? Sharez? Leah shook her head. I just want him to remember his father. To remember his roots. I don't want him to live with regret, like Joseph did. Mara was silent for a long time. Finally, she said, I'll talk to him. But be ready, the truth might hurt more than silence. Leah nodded. But pain is better than numbness. Returning at night that evening, Leah returned to the tin shack. Mary and Sarah were waiting for her. Where have you been? Mary asked. Everyone online is talking about you and the boss. Leah sat down, gently rolled up her sleeve, and showed them the ring. What they're saying isn't true, she said calmly. I am Daniel Mban's sister. His father was my father too. They were too stunned to speak. I don't want his money or his status, Leah said, gazing out at the night sky. I just want him to know a hero who rose out of the slums shouldn't forget he was once the boy collecting bottles. She put the ring on and said softly, tomorrow, the storm will come. But I'm not afraid anymore. Johannesburg mornings. Hit hard with sunlight. The city wakes up to radio news blaring, Ujima tech IPO imminent, valued at 12 billion rand, hailed as Africa's tech beacon, but beneath the shiny surface, troubles brewing. The storm starts with a WhatsApp voice note. You won't believe this. Our high and mighty CS got family drama. The voice is shrill, dripping with schadenfreude. It's Sheila, a maid fired from Daniel's house for stealing. She's been nursing this grudge. Attached is a blurry screenshot, Leah and Daniel talking by his study door. That day she warned him about the data breach. Caption reads, look at our cleaning queen making moves on the boss. He wrote she's always in his study snooping on his computer. Dreaming of becoming Mrs. C. The message spreads like wildfire. From Maid circles to domestic agency chats to social media. People add their own spice. She's not just some cleaner, she claims to be family. Says her dad is the CS dad. Ha! Cinderella in Soweto. Someone's been reading too many fairy tales. Don't buy it, just another gold-digging scheme. Within 24 hours, #cleaning lady scandal trends on Twitter. TikTokers make reenactment videos, poor black woman sneaking into mansions, rifling through safes, confronting young billionaires, clickbait titles. From mop to top, how far will she go? Ujima's PR team hits panic mode. Negative mentions spike 300% in 3 hours. Investors start asking. Leadership stability. CS personal life affecting governance. Daniel rages in the Boa Road room, who leaked this? Find them, fire them. He thinks it's corporate sabotage. Never imagines it. STA route in his own backyard. Road. Leah's world collapses. She walks through the service entrance as usual, but something's off. Kitchen staff stop talking when she enters. The housekeeper eyes her with cold suspicion. Her phone blows up before she can grab a mop. Video call from her sister in Nairobi. Sis. You're all over the internet. Are you okay? Screen floods with hate. Fake humble, just another social climber. Typical African girl dreaming of rich men. Her mom must have been a prostitute. How else explain a Basta RD child? Leah's hands shake. Not for herself. She can take poverty, discrimination, even being called to help. But not this. Her mother's name dragged through mud, her father's dying wish twisted, that ring of truth and protection called a gold-digging tool. She locks herself in a bathroom. From her bra's hidden pocket, she pulls out the Eye of the Maasai. Ivory wa RM, bronze CL. She remembers her mother teaching her to write in their mud hut. Her father's diary confession, I have a daughter I cannot claim. This isn't just her fight. It's for every forgotten, slandered, invisible woman. Daniel's misunderstanding that night, Daniel gathers his inner circle, mother. Sister, Mara Nkosi. Someone's trying to destroy Ujima, he snarls, attacking me through my private life. He shows them the vilest tweets, jaw clenched. Mara stays quiet, then asks, Have you actually checked Leah's background? Daniel scoffs. Kenyan village, no papers, vocational school dropout, domestic work. Classic opportunist. She's been playing a long game. Mayra's eyes narrow. Are you sure she might be more layered than you think? Layered? Daniel barks. She's a cleaner. She can't even get past reception. A knock interrupts. The butler whispers, "Sir, Leah's outside your study. Says it's urgent." "Not now. Tell her she's holding an old diary, says it's about your father." The room freezes. Joseph manned Daniel's most sacred wound. He remembers his father's dying gaze. Northway RD, that locked desk drawer. Send her in, he says. Ho or sly. Showdown. Leah enters, still in uniform, but spine straight. She places Joseph's diary on the table, open to September 1st, 1987. Sir, she meets his eyes. Your father wrote this in Kenya. He loved a teacher named Amina. They had a daughter, me. Daniel sneers. Fairy tales. Where'd you steal this? Not stolen. Come. Your father gave it to my mother. This ring, she raises the eye of the Maasai, is your family's heirloom. He said if you ever lost your way, it would guide you home. Daniel lunges for the diary. His hands tremble seeing his father's handwriting. I leave the eye with Amina, may it remind my son Daniel of his roots. He knows the script. He ars his father's dying whisper in these words. You're saying, you're my sister, voice cracking. Half-sister. Leah nods. My mother Amina died in. Till her last breath, she remembered your father. Daniel's mind whites out. He called her an opportunist hours ago. Told her she'd always be a servant. And she protected him, warned him, even pieced together his "Am I becoming the monster?" note. If this is true, then he's not just an arrogant nouveau riche, he's a man who trampled his own blood. Proof. He grasps at straws. DNA birth certificate. I have no birth certificate. Leah smiles bitterly. In northern Kenya, many children are reborn and die in dust, never counted. But your father's diary is proof. This ring is proof. My mother's photos, her teacher ID, their letters, from her bag, faded photos. Amina holding baby Leah outside a village school. Joseph and Amina together, 1987, a land deed for 0.5 acres by Lake Turkana, purpose, future teacher's center, pending. Daniel's breath hitches. That baby has his eyes. That signature is his father's. Mayra speaks softly. Daniel, I knew your father 40 years. He never lied to me. If this diary's real, you just denied your sister in the cruelest way. Daniel collapses into his chair. Face ashen. Leah takes no joy in this. She only says, Sir, I didn't come for money or family, I came to remind you, don't let your success become your father's regret. She walks out. Leaves Daniel alone with the open diary. In his crumbling pride. The storm it's only beginning. Leah knew the diary and photos alone wouldn't break through Daniel's walls. He needed more than blood ties, he needed to understand what the eye of the Maasai truly meant. So she went back to Kenya. Back to her mother's land, sea urching for answers. The wind by Lake Turkana was still dry and rough. Leah stood in front of the ruins of the village school, just half a wall left, dust swirling in the air. An old Maasai elder recognized her. Amina's daughter, you're alive. His name was Olnjeti, once the village chief. His wrinkled hands trembled as he touched her ring. The eye of the Maasai, it has returned. What does this ring really mean? Leah asked. The elder closed his eyes and spoke slowly. 100 years ago, two Maasai clans fought over water. Many died. A wise man born of one clan, right into the other, forged peace. He made this ring from ivory and bronze, saying, blood may divide, but land and memory must not. This is the ring of reconciliation, to bois rd truth and end hatred. Leah's breath caught. Reconciliation, not a symbol of power, but a promise of peace. The elder pointed to the markings inside the ring. Do you know what this says? Leah turned the ring. Tiny symbols were carved inside. The elder whispered, Ndoti Inkishu, Ndoti Inkanyat. I want no cattle, I want no sheep, I want only peace. This ring, he said, was never given to kings. Only to those willing to sacrifice for unity. Your mother accepted it because she taught all children, no matter their tribe. Your father left it because he knew ideals should never cost family. Tears ran down Leah's face. Now she understood why Joseph gave it to her mother, not to run away, but to repent. He hoped one day his son would Leah RN reconciliation, not conquest. The elder gestured Tawa RD a patch of dry EARTH by the lake. There. Your father bought that land. He wanted to build a school for Masai, Turkana, Luo children to Leah RN together. But Wa came. He was arrested. The dream died. Leah clenched the ring. This wasn't just an inheritance. It was an unfinished mission. Softly, she said, I'm back. And this time, I'll finish it. She took photos of the land, recorded the elder's words, and read the true meaning of the ring of reconciliation with her as she left. When she faced Daniel again, she wouldn't just be his sister. She'd be the messenger of Maasai wisdom, the mender of broken blood, and the sower of a new Africa. The rain in Johannesburg came down hard and fast, like the sky had split open. Mara Nkosi sat in Daniel's mansion study, sta ring at the envelope. Leah left behind diary pages, photos, a land deed, and a video testimony from a Maasai elder. She read all night. Just before dawn, she called Daniel. Get back here. Now. Daniel had just flown in from an investor meeting in Cape Town, exhausted and tense. He thought Mara wanted to discuss damage control for the cleaning lady scandal. And Mara, he sighed, rubbing his temples, my lawyers are already drafting lawsuits against the trolls. Sit down, she said, her voice eerily calm. Look at this first. She slid the diary Tawa RD him, open to September 1, 1987, I leave that eye of the Maasai with Amina, may this ring guide my son Daniel if he loses his way. Daniel frowned. I've seen this. She's using Dad's handwriting to scam me. And this Mara played the video. An elderly Maasai elder, Olnjeti, Ape read on screen, speaking in Swahili about the ring of reconciliation. Reciting the ancient vow inside it, I want no cattle, I want no sheep, I want only peace. Daniel froze. The elder's accent, his BA ring, the rhythm of his words, no one could fake that. One more thing. Mara pulled up a scanned land deed. Your father bought half a hectare in Kenya in 1987. Purpose, African teacher's parative. Your mother never knew, did she? Daniel's breath hitched. Suddenly, his father's dying murmurs, Kenya, a girl, home, weren't delirium. They were confessions. She didn't lie to you, Mara said softly. She's Liam Band. Your father's daughter with Amina Wakori, born while he was in exile. Your half-sister. No. Daniel's voice cracked. My father was a hero. He wouldn't. Heroes are still human, Mara cut in. He fought for millions but failed one family. He left that ring so you wouldn't repeat his mistake, hiding emptiness behind success. Daniel lunged for his father's old leather trunk. He tore through it, yanking out another journal. Page after page, 1987's entries gutted him, I love her. I must leave. I have a daughter I cannot claim. I named her Hope, Leah. His hands shook saying her name. I have a sister, and I called her a servant. He remembered her bent over scrubbing floors. Her calm warning about the data breach. Her piecing together his am I becoming the monster note. She'd been waiting for him to wake up. Where is she? His eyes were raw with shame. Gone back to Kenya, Mara said. To finish what your father sta root, building a school on that land, for kids from all tribes. Daniel collapsed into the chair, TRS streaming silently. He wasn't crying for lost money or status. He was crying for his own arrogance, his blindness, his cruelty. He'd knelt at the altar of power but forgotten the simplest truth, family isn't a trophy. It's a responsibility. Aunt Mara. His voice broke. What do I do? She looked at him like he was still that boy picking through Soweto's trash. Go to Kenya. Kneel. Then stand up and live like a true band. The chandeliers at the Tech Summit dinner in Sandton, Johannesburg, were glittering like a river of stars. Champagne flowed, elites mingled in hushed tones, and Ujima Tech's IPO countdown was projected on the wall. T72 hours. Daniel stood at the center, suited up but restless as hell. He'd just gotten back from Kenya, dust still on him, eyes bloodshot. He was supposed to announce the IPO. But all he wanted was one thing, to find Leah. He scanned the room and finally spotted her in a corner, quietly clear ring plates. Still in that RK blue uniform, a few strands of hair peeking out from her headscarf. He strode over, he RT pounding. Leah. His voice was tight. She looked up, calm as still water. Sir, what can I help you with? Don't call me sir. Nearly shouted it, drawing sta res from the crowd. He took a deep breath, lowered his voice. I just came back from Turkana. I met the elders, saw the land. He pulled a diary from his pocket, handshaking. I read it. Every page. I read it all. The room went quiet. Camera flashes turned Tawa RD them. Daniel suddenly turned to face the guests. His voice wasn't loud anymore, but it was clear as day to everyone. I was going to announce Ujima's IPO today. But now, I have to say something else first. He pointed at Leah. This woman is not our cleaner. She is Liam Band, my sister. My father, Joseph Band, when he was exiled in Kenya in 1987, fell in love with her mother. They had Leah. The crowd erupted in whispers. I once humiliated her in public, Daniel's voice broke, said she'd always be just a servant. I was wrong. So wrong. I forgot where I came from, the dirt roads of Soweto. I forgot what my father taught me about collective responsibility. I built walls with my wealth and shut my own family out. Slowly, he turned back to Leah. Under everyone's stunned gaze, his knees bent, he knelt. Not for show. Not for performance. It was his pride collapsing. His arrogance crumbling. Sister, he looked up at her, tears falling. I'm sorry. I don't deserve to be your brother. But please, give me a chance to be a better man. Leah didn't reach out to help him up. She just looked at him quietly, like looking at a lost child who'd finally found his way home. 1 second, 2 seconds, the ballroom was dead silent. Finally, she spoke softly, but everyone get up, Daniel. She reached out, not to pull him up, but to place the Eye of Masai ring gently in his palm. Real standing isn't about your knees. It's about respect. From today on, don't kneel to power. Kneel to truth. Kneel to responsibility. Kneel to those you've ignored. Daniel clenched the ring and slowly stood. He was no longer the arrogant seed. He was a son. A brother. An African man finally awake. He announced to everyone Ujima Tech will allocate 10% of Shah Residential to establish the Eye of Masai Fund, supporting education and land rights for marginalized African women. All domestic staff will get a 30% pay raise and full social benefits. I will step down as C for 3 months and go back to Turkana with my sister to rebuild the African Teachers Support Network. Applause. Sta roots scattered, then grew thunderous. Some wiped TRS, others raised their glasses. Leah turned and left, her back still quiet, but this time, no one called her the cleaning lady. In everyone's eyes, she was a symbol of awakening, a woman who guaranteed the truth in silence and woke a conscience with dignity. The rain had stopped. Moonlight shone through the glass, glowing on that bronze ring like a light that had traveled 100 years, illuminating a new possibility for Africa. A year later, by Lake Turkana, Kenya. The wind was still dry, the dust still blew everywhere, but there was a touch of green on the once Ren land. A school built of red bricks and solar panels stood tall. A wooden sign at the entrance read, Reign of Red School for Girls. Laughter, light as bells, filled the campus. Over 30 girls dressed in blue and white uniforms ran around in front of the new classrooms. They came from different tribes, Masai, Turkana, Luo, some once facing child marriage, others forced to drop out of school to herd livestock. Now, they were here learning Swahili, math, computers, and the same dignity lessons their mothers once taught. Leah stood by the classroom door, wearing a simple cotton dress, her hair braided neatly. She was no longer the cleaning lady, she was the founder and principal of this school. She still wore the Eye of Masai ring, but no longer hid it under her sleeve, it rested openly under the sun. Teacher. The Python code ran successfully, a girl exclaimed, running over with a tablet. Leah smiled. Well done. Remember, code isn't magic, it's a tool to change your fate. At dusk, an old SUV pulled into the school grounds. Daniel jumped out, a backpack on his shoulder, his hiking boots covered in dust. He wasn't the suited-up C anymore, he was a volunteer teacher. Over the past year, he'd come every month to teach basic coding and the history of African technology. He walked into the office and saw Leah grading homework. What did you teach today? He asked. About your father, Leah said, looking up. I told them he was an idealist, but also a man who made mistakes. True heroes aren't those who never fall, it's those willing to make things right after they fall. Daniel sat down and was quiet for a moment. I met with investors yesterday. They agreed to expand the Eye of Masai Fund to 5 African countries. Next year, we break ground on new schools in Tanzania and Nigeria. Leah nodded. Good. But remember, don't let the fund become charity. Let the girls be part of the decisions. Let them say, this is our school. I understand, Daniel said softly. Like you always taught me, real help is about enabling, not pitying. He looked out the window. Under the sunset, girls were watering a newly planted vegetable garden. Their laughter drifted in with the wind. Sister, he asked suddenly, do you think father would be proud of us? Leah stood and walked to the window, standing beside him. If he saw us no longer kneeling to power, she said with a smile, but kneeling to truth, protecting the vulnerable, building up the land, yes, he would. She turned, picked up a piece of chalk, and wrote 3 words on the wall: a dignity, education, reconciliation. This is Africa's future. She said. Not skyscrapers, not apps, not stock prices. It's every girl standing tall, saying, I exist, and I matter. Daniel gazed at those words, his eyes warm with emotion. Night fell, and solar lights glowed across the campus. The girls gathered on the playground, listening to Daniel tell the story of Ujima Tech. Leah sat to the side, looking up at the stars, remembering her mother's last words, your worth isn't in the land. It's in your heart. Now, her heart had found its home. She wasn't a servant, nor was she a heiress. She was Leah, a woman who walked out of the wilderness and with one ring lit up the future of a generation of girls. The wind swept across the grassland, carrying the scent of new beginnings. A new Africa was quietly growing, in the sound of their laughter.